Welcome to Train Signal. You're watching SharePoint site creation. In this video, I'm going to talk you through how to populate your site collection with SharePoint sites. We're going to start off with a technique that's going to save you some significant time by creating a site template. And the nice thing about this is it's going to save us time on the back end. It's going to cost us a little bit of time on the front end where we actually standardize a lot of the components of our SharePoint sites. Then after we've created that site template together, then I'm going to walk you through 3 easy ways to create SharePoint sites. Now the first methodology is really simple. We're going to use the web interface in order to create a site. And then I'm going to walk you through how to use the STS ADM command line option. Now rather than walk you through the command line option itself, I'm going to show you how to take it and wrap it into a batch script so that it's reusable and will save you just a little bit more time as well. Then we're going to talk about a little more controversial way of creating SharePoint sites, and that is to allow the users to create their sites for themselves. Now, I know some of you are already starting to cringe away from that, and I completely understand. We'll talk about some pros and cons of that and some controls that you might want to put into place for that as well. And then last but not least, we'll talk about what we covered, and I'll provide you with your skill checklist so you can go back and make sure you can perform all of the actions that we do in this video. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, we're going to talk through now how to create a site template and what that really means. A template is a separate file actually that whenever we create a site, we're going to copy from, and what it provides for us are standardized elements, things like logos, navigation, color schemes, and maybe even some web parts thrown into one site, and then we save that guy into a template. So it's going to save you obviously some effort, but it's only really a beginning point. You're not going to be stuck with all the components and all the selections you made for that initial site template. But it does save you some time, especially with things like logos and small little items like that that obviously don't take much time up front. But if you have 20 sites to create, that a few clicks can actually add up quite quickly. So the procedure is we pick one site, or maybe we might create a site, and we load it up with everything that we want to standardize for the rest of our sites. And then we go and save it as a template underneath Site Actions, Site Settings, and Save Site as Template. So over at Verde Petra, let's check back in with them. The CIO wants the following on all the ops test sites: the Verde Petra logo, which is completely understandable, a top link bar that provides links to all the sites underneath ops. And then he also wants an announcements web part on the front page of each separate site, one for each department. And then he also wants us to provide the same theme for all of the ops websites. So in order to make your life easier, you're going to take the ops site, you're going to load it up with everything that's required, and then we're going to create a site template from it. Now, just before we jump headlong into that, let's go back and let's take a look at the site structure, and let's talk a little bit about navigation as well. Navigation inside of SharePoint is very easy to set up, and the primary reason for it, and we want to spend a little time on it, is we need to make sure that users can get to what they need. It's great to have the greatest SharePoint site in the world, but if it's not if your users can't find the stuff that they require, who really cares, right? So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be adding site-wide links to the top link bar per our CIO's instructions. And then over in the quick launch bar, which we'll take a look at and talk about in just a little bit, the quick launch bar allows us to put in a little more specific items that may not necessarily need site-wide recognition or navigation, things that are probably a little more site-specific or maybe department-specific per se. So let's take a look at our site structure again here. This is what our site is going to look like. Our ops top-level site has already been created, so we're good for that one. We're going to be creating the printing site, pre-press, fulfillment, and the maintenance sites. And the printing site, we're going to be creating this one using the web interface. So that one's going to be really super easy. And then the other 3, we're going to be creating these sites using the batch script. But in terms of navigation and allowing our users to get to all 5 of these sites, we're going to first take and put the navigation bar for all of these sites here in the ops site. Then we're going to take it and save that ops site as a template. Now also along the way, we're going to be providing some quick launch links as well. We're going to be providing a link to the printing site, specifically to an ink section and a paper section, two pretty critical and important elements to the publishing and printing process. And we want to make sure that everyone can get to those as well. So if we put in the quick launch links early in the template, that should provide a little more standardization and just one less thing that we have to do after the site is created. Now that we've talked about the site-wide links to the top link bar, we've talked briefly about the quick launch sidebar, and we also have an understanding of what our site is going to look like in terms of its structure. We're now going to move on over into our virtual machine, and what we're going to do while we're there is we're going to start building that site template. So as we create these other 4 sites, we don't have to go back and do all of the branding again, the theming, and all of the navigation elements. All of that will be saved into the site template, and then as we build these sites, all those standardized elements will automatically be in place as soon as we create them. So I'm going to move on over into my virtual machine now. And here you see we are at the Verde Petra Publishing SharePoint server. And we're going to start off, let's just go out to the operations site real quick. And here we are. We're going to load up this site, this top level site, with everything that we want the rest of our sites to have. So we're going to start with the logo. Now currently you see we have these little Microsoft people over here, and that's fine, but the CIO doesn't really like the little Microsofty logo over here. He would prefer that we have the nice big Verde Petra logo. So we're going to begin with that procedure first. Now I'm going to show you a pretty easy way to figure out where these graphics live at. I'm going to right click on the little people logo and go into its properties. Now here is the address for that little graphic. I'm just going to grab the title of the graphic itself. And this is a little bit of a hack, but I'm just going to do just a rough search for it real quick. And by the way, I'm just copying and pasting those in. And just as a quick refresher, the shortcut to copy is Control-C, and the shortcut to paste is Control and the letter V as in violin. All right, so I've pasted that in there real quick with Control-V. I'm clicking on search, and I'm going to wait here for just a second while it goes out and finds that little graphic so I can open up the directory that it lives in. What I'm going to do once I have the directory is I'm going to drop in the Verde Petra logo, and then we're going to specify the Verde Petra logo in place of the title graphic inside of the site look and feel option. So here's the title graphic.gif. I'm going to right click on it and select Open Containing Folder. And here it is. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and close my search box now because I'm done with that. I'm going to open up my C drive because that just happens to be where my Verde Petra logo is living. I'm going to resize this real quick. And I'm just going to do a quick copy, right click and copy, move over back to the directory, and I'm going to paste it into this directory. There we go. All right, so the verdepetra.gif, the logo, is now living here in the same directory as the title graphic.gif. Now let's go back and let's set this graphic as the logo in the actual sites. So I can go ahead and close these 2 windows. I'm going to leave this one. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to grab this URL real quick because we're going to use it. I've just selected it, and now I'm going to do a Control-C on the keyboard to grab that text and tell it OK. Now I'm going to Site Actions and Site Settings. And here underneath Look and Feel, you see Title, Description, and Icon. We're going to be specifying the location for the icon here underneath URL. Now I'm just going to do a quick Control-V to paste that. And in order to make this easy on myself, I'm just going to replace one word, which is title graphic, with verdepetra.gif. And so now I'm going to put in my description for alt text. and tell it OK. And voila, it's that easy to add a different logo up top here in the site. So we have that first step accomplished, and we have added that level of branding. Once again, just as a quick reminder, it's underneath Site Actions and Site Settings, and then here underneath Look and Feel, Title, Description, and Icon. All right, so let's move on now to the theme option, because right now the Verde Petra is a nice green and everything out here is a nice bright Microsofty blue, which is under normal circumstances nice. But let's see if we can find a site theme that's at least closer to that green. So underneath here, Look and Feel, I'm going to go to Site Theme. And now I have a variety of different themes to choose from. And by the way, you can make a lot greater changes in terms of the theme and the layout inside of SharePoint Designer. I'm going to keep it simple for this test run, and I'm going to select the Verdant option and click on Apply. And that's going to turn my whole site a nice bright green that's at least closer to the Verde Petra Publishing logo. All right, so the logo has been applied, the theme has been applied. Now let's start working on our navigation. Once again, we're coming back here to Look and Feel, and we're going to be altering the top link bar. Currently, I only have one link, which is to, well, the home page. And we're going to add a link by clicking on New Link. And I'm going to be specifying the address here, Publishing Center, :17158/. And I'm going to name this link, and name this site /print. But just so you know, this site and this page does not actually exist yet. Now, SharePoint doesn't mind if you create links to stuff that doesn't exist, but obviously from a business perspective, if you're going to create a link to something as such as we're doing here, you better make sure that you actually follow through and create something here at that print location. All right, so the description text is what's going to show up here in the top link bar. Let me go ahead and click OK and show you what it's going to look like. And now here's my printing department. Let's do one more just for good measure. I click on link. Once again, I type in my URL. Even though it doesn't exist, that's okay. Because quite honestly, before you even sit down to start doing this, you really should be planning out your SharePoint implementation anyway. And I have another video in this series where we talk about planning. That will be coming up in your list. But for right now, let's just do pre-press. And you know what? I should probably make these items all lowercase just for simplicity. And by the way, it's also a very, very good idea never to put spaces in your URLs. And I've had people argue with me about that, but take it from Coach. Make your URLs as simple as you can. Okay, so now let me go ahead and put in the description, the text for pre-press, and there we have it. I'm going to pause the video now that you have seen how to accomplish these. I'm going to create the last two, and I'll be back in just a moment. Okay, all of my links have now been created, even though they don't go anywhere right now. You see them here in the list, and you also see them up top here in the top link bar. Now, if you don't like the order that they currently live in, you can always change the order. It's a very, very simple procedure. All you have to do is select the number that you'd like for them to go in. So if I want to pull up, I want to put pre-press in front of the printing department, not a problem. I simply select a different number, it pops into its place, and I tell it OK. And that will rearrange my top link bar for me. So that's accomplished. Let's go ahead now and let's go back to site settings. We're going to add in 2 quick launch links, and just real quick, let me take you back to the ops homepage just to make sure that everyone's clear. This is your quick launch bar, the sidebar right over here that I just highlighted. This is the item that we're going to be altering, and we're going to be putting in our own links for. Let me go back now to Site Actions and Site Settings. And now down to Quick Launch. The quick launch pretty much works the same way as the top link bar. Now there is one advantage to using the top link bar over this quick launch. The top link bar can be inherited by multiple sites. So the exact same toolbar, the exact same navigation bar can be the same across all of our operation sites. Quick launch, it's not the case. It doesn't inherit items, which most of the time you're going to be using quick launch for very site specific and department specific objects that you're going to be creating for that section anyway. So it's not that big of a deal. But if we want standardized elements that we want to make sure everybody can get to over here in the quick launch, then we're better off to set that up in the template rather than having to go through and create those links on every single site that you build. So I'm going to first of all make a new heading, because the headings are real nice ways to get around and kind of group and organize your quick launch bars rather than having one big huge long list of links like we all have seen on other websites, right? So I'm going to create a new heading, and since this one is going to be for the printing section or pages in the printing section, I'm going to go ahead and put in here printing center : 17158/print. Now, by the way, you don't have to put in a web address here. Okay, I just want to let you know that this is optional. The description, however, is not. But if you'd like for your users to have a little bit easier way, a little more intuitive way to get around your site, you want to try to give them as many links as possible, and especially links that make sense. All right, so here's the text that's going to be the link. It's going to be printing resources, and so it's also going to act as the header for our little organizational methodology here. So here it is, printing resources down at the bottom. Now I'm going to create some new links to put under it. So I'm going to first start with the printing page for the inks. Print/inks. And yes, I know that doesn't exist yet either, and again, that's perfectly okay. All right, so now we're going to put in the description text for the link itself, inks list, and now for the heading, I'm going to select printing resources. This is a pretty important stop that a lot of folks forget, so make sure you don't forget to put your links in the quick launch under a particular heading. All right, so now I can click OK. And now my inks list is hanging out here underneath printing resources quite happily. Let's do one more real quick. New link. And this time it's going to be paper. And we'll say paper list. Once again, something that does not yet exist, that's okay. We're going to put it underneath the heading printing resources and tell that okay. Now it's currently down all the way at the bottom of the list, and I'm not real sure I'm feeling that. I'm actually going to bump it up to the top here by coming up and once again clicking on the change order. It's a very similar process with the top link bar, except now we have options for the different subheadings. We're going to move printing resources up to the second slot and tell that okay. You notice here that all of the links underneath printing resources also followed it. So we don't have to worry about moving the links as well as the heading. It's a real nice way to keep things easily organized. Now this pictures link, I'm not sure I'm really feeling that just yet, so I'm going to click on pictures. You know what, I think I'm just going to get rid of this and tell this delete. All right, so I have deleted some links, I've added some links, I've rearranged these links. Let's go back to the home page here and let's take a look. Our top level link bar is quite happily living here at the top edge of the page, and then our quick launch bar that we just built is also happily hanging out over here in its spot. So at this point we've got several of our requirements accomplished. Now let's make sure that we have the announcements web part. Now currently you see that we have the announcements web part by default as part of the team site, and so we can actually just use this one, but everything else, it's got to go. So we're going to go here to Site Actions, Edit Page, and now I just click on the little X's to get rid of the stuff that I don't want to be on the front page. And since I am technically the administrator slash the owner of the operations site currently, I'm well within my rights in order to actually get rid of the stuff that I just don't want to see. All right, so now I'm going to exit the edit mode. And now I only have the announcements web part here on the front page. Everything is accurate. Everything is looking pretty good. Just one quick note about this announcements. This announcements web part is only valid per site. Now let me tell you what that means. Okay. At this point in time, we do not have a widget that is going to automatically pull data in from one other web part. So each one of our websites, pre-press, printing department, fulfillment, and maintenance, each one of them is going to have a separate announcements list. They will not be sharing the same announcements list at this point in time. So don't get sucked in by that thought process. And quite honestly, if we want to know department-wide and company-wide information, we would go to the company-wide website or the department-wide website. So it doesn't necessarily need to be on every page. But departmental announcements, on the other hand, do. So everything is looking good so far. And just let me show you what's going to happen when I click on these links. Even though we've created the links, the items that they point to do not yet exist. So we're going to have to fix that, huh? All right, so we have accomplished everything thus far. We're now going to save this guy as a template. It's very, very easy. We go to Site Actions, Site Settings, scroll down just a little bit here underneath Look and Feel, and we select Save Site as Template. And now I'm going to save this as vpops. And you'll notice here that we have a 3-letter file extension at the end, .stp, for SharePoint template. All right, so we're going to give this guy a quick friendly name. And a quick description. Now, do I want to include content? Now, right now, there's really no content, but we do want to make sure that we grab a hold and keep those web parts. So we're going to tell it okay. It's really not going to hurt anything if you leave it unchecked or if you check it at this point, because, well, it's an empty site. So our site has been successfully saved down. Let's take a quick look at it over in the site template gallery. And here it is, vpops. Notice we have a little new icon. If we would like to go in and make a quick tweaking of the properties for this object, we can't tweak the object itself. We actually have to find the file and download it, or not download it. We have to find the file in the server and open it and make alterations to it from there. Or quite honestly, we might just want to start with this website. We might just want to start with one of these, make the alterations, and save it at, as vpops and just right over the top of it. So everything has been accomplished now. Let's go back to our regularly scheduled program. Let's just double check on our slide just to make sure we got everything. We got the Verde Petra logo, check. The top link bar with links, yeah, we got that. The announcements web part, yep, we got that, and the same theme. Fantastic. We now have a template that we are ready to use for our next part, in which we're actually going to create a website using the web interface. Now, just to let you know, even though we're only going through 3 of the easiest ways to create sites, there's actually 5. The 2 methodologies we're not going to be covering are the 2 methods that require a stronger level of programming, and that's a little far outside of where I'd like to take you. So we're going to stick with the 3 easiest ways. So we're going to start with the web interface, then I'm going to walk you through the stsadm command. And again, we're going to use that, and we're going to build a batch script out of that to make our lives a little bit easier. And I'm also going to talk you through how to let your users build the sites themselves with self-service. Again, I know. So you're like, oh man, that may or may not be a good idea. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. The command line option, even if, or I really should say, the command line option is always going to be great for batch scripting. Now, that's not just for SharePoint, just so you know, but pretty much any Microsoft Server product has a lot of command line options to give us a little bit more power. Now, just to kind of give you an idea, we have 5 sites to create. We want to find a way to create them quickly and easily, not just for now, but also for the future. Now, you've already created that template from the Ops top level site, and we're going to be creating the first site using the nice, neat web interface. It's going to take us less than 5 minutes, and then we're going to build that batch script. So let's go ahead and get started with this. Now, for the web interface, I'm going to actually get that from the client side this time. I'm here on my Vista machine. I'm not in my virtual machine now. And when I'm accessing my server from the client, it's going to prompt me for my credentials. And here I am. So now we're going to create let's see, first site I think was going to be pre-press, I think. So, or maybe it was printing. Doesn't really matter too much. We're going to create all of them anyway, right? So I'm going to start here by going to Site Actions and Site Settings. Now, a lot of you are initially going to be very tempted to start here and create. Don't go here when you want to create a separate sub-site. If you want to create a new web page, which we'll cover in a different video, you can start here. But we want to create a whole complete site. And for that, we go to Site Settings. I'm going to scroll down a little bit and find Sites and Workspaces. This is where we're actually going to build those sub-sites that we talked about and looked at back in the slides. You'll see that currently there are no sites underneath Operations. Remember, Operations is a top-level site. We're going to create sub-sites. So I click on Create. And now I'm going to scroll over just a little bit, and I'm going to do pre-press. Actually, which one is it? Which one's in the first slot right now? Pre-press. Yeah, we'll do that one. So the title list is going to be pre-press, and for the description, I'm going to put in here all pre-press resources. And now for the website address. We have the top level site here. I'm going to specify simply pre-press at the end of the URL for my new location. And now we get to select a different template. Now, these basic templates all have that nice blue Microsofty feel. We've built one for the custom section. Let's go to it. And you see here underneath the custom button is my Verde Ops template that we just built. We're going to stick with the same permissions as the parent site for this test set of sites because all of our operational department folks are going to have pretty much the same access to it. Now we can always come back and change this just so you know, so we're good for that. Now, do we want to display this site on the quick launch? No, I'm not really feeling that because it's going to be in the top link bar. But do we want to display the site on the top link bar of the parent site? We do, but we've already created a button for it. So in this instance, we're going to tell it no. Do we want to use the top link bar from the parent site? Yes, we do, because we've already built that top link bar over in Ops. It's already part of our template anyway, so we're going to tell it yes and click on Create. And now our little green circle is going to spin for just a little bit while it creates the site. And here it is. Here is our pre-press resources, complete with the logo, the theme, our links over here. Everything is looking really good. Okay, so that's our first site that we have successfully created. Now let's move back over to the server. Let me go ahead and take this down here. And I'm going to move back over to the server for the next step, which is creating, well, let's go ahead and put a check mark here in our list, huh? We're going to create that batch script. Now, I guess probably before we do that, we should probably talk through it a little bit. So let me go ahead and bounce over to the next slide. Now I've listed off the procedure here on the slide, and this is mostly so that's going to be available to you in the instructor notes. I'm going to walk and talk you through every step of this process. Before we do, though, I want to let you know that STS-ADM, this option that we're going to be using, it has to be run on the server from an account that has local administrator rights. You can't run this from the client, which is why we're going to have to move over to our virtual machine in just a little bit in order to make this happen. All right, so now let's talk about the procedure we're going to be performing over on the Verde Petra server. We're going to first create a brand new text file in this crazy address, C program files, common files, Microsoft shared web server extension /12/bin. STS-ADM is actually an executable file, and this is where it lives at, right here. Then we're going to name that text file easyops.bat. Now, I want to let you know that you can actually name it whatever you want. It doesn't matter what it's actually called, as long as it has the .bat file extension. That's what's going to make this guy executable. All right, so after we have named the file, then we right-click the file, select Edit from the context menu. That's going to open up the file into Notepad. Then we're going to type this crazy script right here, all on one line, and then we're going to be substituting in your variables for, wherever it says your site, your subsite, your site template. We're going to use real items there, and I'm going to show you an example of that in just a little bit. And after we get through the process, I'll talk you through what each one of these items are as well. Then after we have typed in the script, we save early, save often. We right-click the bat, and this is a pretty important step because we have to create a shortcut in order for this process to work like we want it to. The reason for the shortcut is that when we create this batch script that we just briefly touched on up here, we have some variables in here, and this batch script as it is not going to do anything without putting in some extra information. We'll talk about what that extra information is in just a few moments. So we're going to create a shortcut for it. We're going to move it somewhere convenient, like, oh, I don't know, the desktop, the quick launch bar, somewhere where you can get to it fairly easily. Then we're going to right-click the shortcut, select Properties. Then there's going to be a line in there called the target. We're going to replace whatever is in there with the letter CMD. What that's going to do is that when we open up the shortcut, it's going to open up the command line into this crazy long directory, and it's going to allow us to type in something as easily as this: easyops.bat, the site name, and then we throw in the title for the site in between quotes, and then we throw in the description for the site in between quotes as well. And that's all that will take. Rather than typing a really long command line, several times, we're going to basically create kind of a shorthand for ourselves, again, saving ourselves just a little bit of time. Okay, let's walk through this command line option now. Let's start off with STS-ADM. This one's kind of a duh statement, right? STS-ADM is the actual executable. Let's talk about this -O next. The -O specifies that we're about to perform some kind of operation. And there's different operations that STS-ADM can actually do for us. We're actually going to be using the Create Web option for our example here. And again, there are others. And what that's going to do, it's going to create for us a website at this particular URL. So we're going to specify the -URL. And then we're going to put in the URL of our site, substituting in specifics for the your site and your subsite. So you're not going to type this in directly, right? There's always, one person who says, okay, everybody write your name, and someone writes YOURNAME. There's always one of those in every crowd. But anyway, this little %1, this is a variable, okay? This is actually our first variable. And what this does is this little %1 corresponds to the first item that we type right after we type in easyops.bat. So we're going to put in a real site name in here for it. So for example, for the printing site, let's say we want it to be http://publishing center :17158/print. Okay. What we're going to do in order to create that is we type easyops.bat print, and that's going to substitute in the word print for the percentile 1. So really what we're doing is we're kind of creating placeholders, okay, if that makes a little more sense to you. All right, then we're going to specify a site template, okay, and the site template, we've already created ours. So for this slot, we're actually going to kind of hard code this into the batch script, and we're going to be using vpops.stp for our example. But obviously you're going to put in whatever it is that you named the site. Then I'm going to specify the title for the website, and I'm going to be specifying that to be a percentile 2. And once again, this is a placeholder for text. We're going to type in the second slot after we type easyops.bat, and we're just going to highlight exactly what it corresponds to right here. So it's going to correspond to the title for the site. All right. Next, we're going to specify the description with a dash description, and then we're going to put in a percentile 3, and that's going to correspond to be replaced by whatever we put in quotes in our third slot of our little command. All right, so not terribly difficult, just kind of looks like spaghetti initially when we first start working with this. So now that we have walked through our procedure, we've walked through the command line option, let me take you over to the server and let's actually get this done, huh? So bouncing back over to the server now, I'm going to minimize my website because I can't really do that from here. I'm going to go to Start, My Computer. I'm going to go into the C drive, into Program Files, Common Files, Microsoft Shared, Web Server Extensions, 12, and then bin. Are you all impressed that I remember that? I'm impressed, I gotta tell you. Okay, so we are now here in the appropriate directory. Here's stsadm.exe. So here's the actual executable. So we're going to create a we're actually going to create a batch script from it. So I'm going to right click here, select new, and select text document. And I'm going to name this text document easyops.bat. And it's going to give me a little warning. Yeah. Of course, I want to change it. I'm going to shrink this guy up here just a little bit so it's a little bit easier to see. So here's easyops.bat that I just created. I'm going to right click it and select edits. And again, you can name it whatever you want as long as you have the .bat. So you can name it, spot.bat or, sallysue.bat, whatever it is, you just have to make sure you have the .bat in there. All right, so now let's go actually type in our command line. So I'm going to start with stsadm space -o. Now I specify the operation, which is create web space, and now I'm going to specify the URL -URL http:// publishing center :17158/ and then I'm going to put in the percentile 1. That's going to be my first variable. All right, space. Now I think, what is it? We're going to specify the site template. And quite honestly, it doesn't make too much difference in what order you or where you put the site template option at. And I need to make sure that I add in a dash here. Okay, and I'm going to specify vpops, which is what we created, .stp space. Now I'm going to specify the dash title switch. And once again, I'm going to put in that percentile 2 because I'm going to be using that percentile 2 as a variable or a placeholder for the text that I'm actually going to enter in when we run this command. And last but not least, let's do the description. So we put in the description switch, and I do a percentile 3. And that's it. Okay, so now I go to File and Save. And now I have to close it. Our next step is we create that shortcut, right? So I'm going to right click on this guy, select shortcut, and here's my shortcut to EasyOps.bat. Let me drop it here onto the desktop. I can go ahead and minimize that window here. I'm going to right click on EasyOps.bat and go into its properties. Remember, we're going to take out whatever's here in the target box, and we're going to replace that with CMD. So it opens up the command line option, but it's going to start the command line here in this really long, crazy directory. So we're in good shape. We're going to go ahead and tell that OK. The icon is going to change to let us know it's going to open up the command line. All right, everything is running beautifully right now. Let's go ahead and open it up and let's give it a try. So I simply double click the icon and I type EasyOps.bat space print. Remember, that's my first percentile one, right? I put in a title for the site, printing floor. And now I put in the description, all printing staff resources and communication. Put all that in quotes. So printing floor is my percentile 2. That's the title of the site. And then this is the description of the site. So we're in good shape. We're going to press the enter key. And you'll see that as soon as I press the enter key, it put in my little variables here in this big long script that we wrote a little bit earlier. It's going to sit and spin for just a little bit, but in just a few moments, it's going to give me an operation completed successfully. And my site has been created. Now I'm going to go ahead and keep on rolling with this here, EasyOps.bat. And then let's see, we did print, we did pre-press. Let's do fulfillment space. And that's my percentile 1 slot, right? Now for my percentile 2 slot, the title. And we'll put in here fulfillment communications, quotes for the title of the site. And now for the description of the site, all things fulfilling. You know, the fulfillment guys are kind of, fun like that. So, all right, so I put in all of my options. I press the enter key. It substitutes all of my text in for the percentile numbers. And once again, in just a moment, I'm going to get an operation completed successfully. Fantastic. So we're good to go there. Let's do one more. We have to do maintenance yet, right? So EasyOps.bat space maintenance. Make sure I spelled that right. Yeah. And notice how fast this is. The only trick to this batch script is remembering what the three variables are. Press the enter key, and away it goes. So you can create, using this little batch script that we put together, you can create 2 or 3 sites in about the time that it would take you to create, probably one of them using the web interface. As long as you remember what to put after EasyOps.bat. All right, so everything looks like it worked really well. So next up, let's go ahead and take a look at our websites and let's see if the websites were actually created like it said that they were. And we'll see if there's any problems with those websites as well. Here we are at the operations top level site. We roll over pre-press. We'll go ahead and we'll click on it. And everything looks okay here at pre-press. Of course, we already built this one. If we roll over the tool or the top link bar and take a look at the links in the lower left-hand corner of the screen, so they are exactly what they should be. They are all top level to a sub website. Now let's click on printing department. And here we are at the printing floor. Okay, we're in good shape for that. Now when I roll over maintenance, look at the URL at the bottom left-hand corner. It's publishing center 17158 slash print slash maintenance. That's not right. Fulfillment, same thing. Now, print, this isn't right either because it's print print. Prepress is print prepress, and home is print default. That's not where we need to go with this. This top link bar has issues. And some of you are thinking, man, coach, you just totally sandbagged us. And yes, I did. This is one of those mistakes that I have seen other folks make. And want to go ahead and leave this in here so that just in case you make the same mistake, you know how to get it fixed. So let me take you back to operations. And we're going to fix this. It's real easy to fix. Now, the pre-press site, you know, when we created it, we actually were inheriting links from the top level site here in operations. Okay, that's a good thing. But here, when we created the printing department, our template was created from the operations page. Now, the operations site was not inheriting its links from, well, anywhere. So what we have to do is we have to tell the printing floor site to inherit its links from the parent site, which is the operations page. So we go to Site Actions, Site Settings, and we go here to the top link bar, and we simply click on Use Links from Parent. Bada boom, bada bing. So now we're still here on the printing floor page, but now when we roll over the link bar, everything works okay. So let's do the same thing now for fulfillment. Because remember, fulfillment is going to be made from the same items as printing, or the same template as printing department and maintenance. So we're still going to have those weird URLs that are going to be broken when we click on them. So when we go to Site Settings, we go to Top Link Bar and Use Links from Parent. Tell that OK. And once again, roll them over. We're good. Let's go to Maintenance. We got one more here. And just so you know, some of you are thinking, well, are you sure they're broken? Yeah, I'm really sure they're broken. Let's go ahead and click on this one. Yeah, see, it takes us here to a 404. So that's not so good. Click on back. Let's go to Site Actions, Site Settings, and one more here, Top Link Bar, Use Links from Parent. And now all of our top link bars for all 5 of our sites should be working just fine. So as I click through just to make sure, never hurts to double check, especially before you release it out to your constituents. You know, you don't want to spend a huge amount of time building something, release it out to folks, and then have a whole bunch of angry emails sitting and waiting for you in your inbox. So now that we do have all of our sites set up and working correctly, let's go ahead and fix our template issue. We're going to take our pre-press site, because remember, we created that pre-press site from the op site, and we did inherit the links. So we're going to save pre-press as our site template this time. So this way we have a template that we don't have to go back and re-inherit all those links every time we create new sites. And then we'll say Verde ops with links. We'll say with link fix. I'll skip the description for right now. I'll include the content so I have that standardized web part and tell it OK. And now my template has been successfully saved out. Let's go ahead and go to the site template gallery and just double check to make sure it's living in there. And there we have it. Looks like we have an additional one in there. All right. So we're going to go back now to our easyops.bat. And we need to fix this real quick. And so we're going to go into its editing mode. We'll scroll all the way over here to the end. And then I'm going to simply fix the name of the template. The template that's going to be used. Let's go back and double check. Let's see, what did we just create here? VPops Repair. So I will name that guy VPops Repair. And save it out. So now next time that I use my easyops.bat batch file, I will get the correct link bar hanging out up at the top. we have completed all of these steps. And again, this checklist will be available to you in the instructor notes, so you can print it off so you can actually turn around and use it in your test network or even maybe at work. Next, let's talk about self-service site creation. We've covered two ways to create websites, as administrators. Now let's talk about, do we want to allow users to create their own sites? Now, enabling this feature is very, very easy. It's a couple of clicks, but it's a little risky. Is this something that we really want to let our users do? And part of that question is, how savvy are my users to begin with? And if they do start creating sites, is this something that it's going to cause me more headache, or is it something that's going to make my life a little easier? And that's a question that you're going to have to contend with. If the risk is worth taking something off of your shoulders as an administrator, hey, beautiful, I say go for it. But there's a couple of controls that we might want to put in place just in case we are going to allow users to create their own. Now, the first one is site quotas, and we've already talked about these. This is a very simple way to make sure that users aren't creating sites and then loading up their entire hard drive into your SharePoint server. Especially templates. Templates are a really easy way to do that. We've taken a look at those already. We're going to take a look at another tool called Site Use Confirmation and Deletion. And what this is going to do is it's going to watch SharePoint sites that have not been used. It's going to run a check at intervals that we specify and see if anyone has actually visited them and are actually posting any content on them. And if not, it's going to send an email alert, as long as the email has been configured on the SharePoint server, to that user and say, hey, this site hasn't been used, do you still want it? And then from there, if they don't respond, then we can actually specify and set it up so that SharePoint will automatically delete it. Now, the quick reference, by the way, for these options are, they're all under Central Administration Site, the CA, underneath Application Management. So let's go ahead and go back over to our virtual server now. Just so you know, we don't have to do this on the server. We'll go ahead and close this one. We can perform this action from a client as long as we remember that crazy CA port that SharePoint set up for us earlier. So here we are at the CA, and we're going to click here on Application Management. And I'm going to scroll down here, and it's actually under Application Security. And I'm going to go here to Self-Service Site Management. And in order to enable self-service site management, we have to enable this at the web application level. So make sure that the web application that you are enabling this for doesn't have any other site collections that you don't want self-service management for. So I want this on the operations side. And we're just going to double check and make sure we have the correct web application URL here. We're in good shape. We're going to set it to on, and then we are going to require a secondary contact. Now, this is a really good idea, just so you know. Requiring a secondary contact will also send another email to a secondary party just in case that person happens to be out of town that week. So we're going to leave that set up as such and tell it OK. So now that we have that self-service site option turned on, let's go over and let's talk about the site use confirmation and deletion option. Again, right around the same place. Again, double checking that we're on the right web application. We're in good shape there. So we're going to put a check mark here and send email notifications to owners of unused site collections. We're going to start sending notifications after X amount of days. The default is 90 after the site collection has been created and the use has been confirmed. Now, if it has not been used at all or visited or anything posted on it, we can specify either daily, weekly, or monthly checks for sites that have not had any activity, and then we can automatically delete the site collection if the use is not confirmed. So what's going to happen is if SharePoint finds a site that has not been used, it's going to send out X amount of notices. And you see by default we have 28 notices. That might be a little overkill, but that's up to you. It depends on how many notices you think are appropriate. And also remember how I was telling you why you might want to require that secondary contact option as well for that self-service site creation, or I mean self-service management option. In case someone isn't around, they will still get the email, they will still be able to confirm that site and that they still want it. So that's really much all that we have to do in order to enable this option. Once again, we send email notifications to owners who have not actually used the sites, and if they don't respond or if they don't do anything with the site, we go ahead and we trash it. And it's, the notices and the days, that's something that you're going to have to, set up a policy for and decide based upon your circumstances, how much disk space you have, etc., etc. So after that's been enabled, we can go ahead and just tell it OK. Now you'll notice here that it's going to give me an email server settings invalid message. That's because we haven't done anything with the email settings as of yet. So, and that's okay. We're going to get to that in a little bit later video. So let's go on back to our regularly scheduled program. Now that you know how to turn those two controls on, we're in good shape. So let's talk about what we covered in this video, and here is your skill checklist. At this point, you should now be able to save a customized site as a template to save yourself some time. You should be able to brand a site with a logo using the options to change the icon underneath site settings and title, icon, and description. Add, delete, and move links in that top link bar in Quick Launch. And you should also now be able to make sure that your subsites are inheriting that top link bar from the parent if you so desire. You also now saw how to create a site from the web interface. That was a piece of cake. And then also how to write a basic command line batch script to create sites using that site template file, actually hard coding that in. And then we now also should be able to enable users to create their own sites with that self-service site management, and also be able to set up, oops, we're missing a check mark there. Also be able to set up site confirmation and deletion options to ensure that our disk space isn't being eaten up. Now, for those of you who have been intrigued by our STS ADM experiment here, Jose Barreto has actually has done a lot of good work for us here. There's a complete list on his blog of all of the STS ADM functions, including all of those operations. Now, obviously, we don't have time to hit all of them. We're going to hit STS ADM a couple more times in the course, but if you are intrigued and want to learn more about that, you can visit Jose here and get a hold of more information. All right, so we are finished with this lesson. In just a little bit, we're going to talk more about populating your sites with web parts and different components that will provide more usability and functionality to your SharePoint presence.